dong. Okay. Well, I was making noises there as we started. Welcome to the Empire Builders Podcast. Dave Young here alongside Steven Semple, and we're talking about empires. I mean, businesses that started tiny and grew into behemoths in this case. And often, well, every time what we do is we let the countdown to the recording start, and then Steven whispers in my ear today's topic, and we kind of see if I recognize it. Maybe I've heard, maybe perhaps I've heard of them. Um, and today he just said one word, Amazon. And I'm like, is that a river? Is it I mean, that's what we all said back in the day when Jeff Bezos
Yes,
started it was,
yes.
"Really? You named
Yeah,
it after a river in South America? What are you thinking? What's wrong with you?" But, I guess he proved him wrong.
what you're gonna discover wasn't actually the first name.
Oh, cool.
They started with a different name and then switched to Amazon.
Jeffy's Online Books?
Well, and here's the thing, we're 200 and some odd episodes in, and we've managed to hold off not covering Amazon.
That's a good point, yeah.
And I resisted myself because basically everything that's to be said about Amazon has probably been said, but I did come across a couple of interesting little tidbits that we're gonna focus on
Oh,
that I
cool.
hope gives a little bit different picture to Amazon than the other things people look, Amazon is a massive success, has changed the way the world is, was unbelievably innovative and forward thinking, and, today Amazon does, like, 8,000 orders a minute.
A minute.
A minute.
Unbelievable.
Crazy, isn't it? And,
Mhm,
Jeff Bezos is one of the richest men in the world, and Amazon is just a monster out there.
mhm.
But here's the thing that's also really interesting. Jeff Bezos did not come from technology or retail. And how often have we seen this over and over and over again that these businesses are built by people from outside the industry? Like, that is like 9 out of 10 or probably even more like 99 out of
Mhm,
100. He was an investment guy that was working in the early '90s on Wall Street.
mhm.
That's what he was doing, and he was making big bucks doing research in the technology space. So he was working in the space, but he wasn't a tech guy or a retail guy, and he
Mhm.
comes across this report about growth in the internet space, and he like, he literally it boggles his mind. He's working away in Wall Street, comes across this report, and it says the space is growing at 2,300%. And he literally, as the story goes, picks up the phone, calls the analyst and said, "There's a typo here." And they were like, "No, this is how it's growing." And he was like, "Oh my god." Now let's think about this for a moment, because it's easy to forget this. 1989 is when the first online transaction on the World Wide Web happened,
Okay. I
right? So
wouldn't have
think
thought it
about
was
it.
even that long ago, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but it was like one
Yeah. It's ancient history now, but
we
Mhm.
forget how much the growth is, and if you really want to go back, probably the best documentation of the growth we've had is episode 227 on AOL, because AOL
Right,
was really a driver of internet growth. Like, it really was. It was really
right.
one of the pioneers that took people online. So to be looking at these things in the early '90s and go, "Hey, I see growth in online retail," that's really forward thinking,
Mhm.
right? Like, I've gotta give Bezos credit. Not a lot of people were thinking that way. So, he looks at this growth and he says, "There's gotta be potential to do a business in this space," and that's where he starts off. "We've gotta do a business in this space." So, he does brainstorming ideas with his wife at the time, McKinsey, and they look at investment sites, they look at advice sites, but he decides it needs to be a store because people shop every day. Everyone. It's
An online
mass.
store, yeah.
It's mass, it's something we do all the time, it's habitual, and he doesn't want to do something that's a niche. And it has no boundaries, and ideally, you could remove a lot of the friction in shopping. But he realizes he can't start that way. This is the other part where I thought he was brilliant. His vision was always online store, but he knew you can't start as an online store. You can't become known for being an online store. It's too big. You need to pick one thing.
Right. But he had that vision long, before he started selling books.
The goal was to sell everything,
Everything.
but he knew that's not where you start. And this is
Okay.
what I find interesting. It's amazing how many startups I talk about have these massive visions, right? And
Mhm.
it's too big.
Yeah.
You could have that massive vision, but you gotta still start with something smaller, right? And that
Yeah.
starting something smaller doesn't limit you. Jeff Bezos proven that. So
Mhm.
so he steps back in this point, he's trying to figure out, well, what's the one thing I wanna do? And he ordered a book called Cyber Dreams by Asimov, and it took 2 weeks to arrive and arrived damaged. And he looked at it and said, and the ordering process was a bit of a pain in the neck, and he went, "You know what? There's an opportunity to do better here." And at the time, the book business is very fragmented. There's 2 big players, Barnes& and Noble and Borders, but
Mhm.
they combined are only 25% of book sales. So still, most book sales are being done by little retailers. So it's dominated by all sorts of little players, and they don't do a good job of shipping books. So he says, "There's the opportunity.
Mhm.
Books is the opportunity." He quits Wall Street, where he's making like $1 million a year, moves to Seattle to start the business. And he moves to Seattle because University of Washington at the time has got like basically the top computer engineering school. Microsoft is there, so there's lots of good engineers available.
Gotcha.
He hires a programmer, Shell Captain, and the first name of the company was not Amazon. It was Cadabra, as in
Cadabra. Cada
abracadabra, your book arrives, right?
Yeah.
Name didn't work well. People thought it was
Magic supplies
no,
or
well, they actually mistake it cadabra for cadaver.
Yeah, that's not good either. Now that I think about it.
So they needed a new name, and they had very much still the phone book mentality. Remember how everybody wanted to be
Sure,
listed
yes,
first in the
gotta
phone
start
book?
start with an
S
A.
so you start with an A, and the first name that kinda came along that they thought they could do anything with was Amazon. Okay, yeah, it's down a
Mhm.
river, all this other stuff. So they just went, "Sure, let's do Amazon. We can make that work."
Well,
S
and the smart thing is he picked and unless I'm wrong, he picked one word as the name, right? It wasn't
Yes.
Amazon Booksellers.
No,
It wasn't
Amazon.
Amazon Online Booksellers.
Right. Because he still had the
That's
vision
limiting.
right,
Yeah.
because he still had the vision, "I'm gonna do more than this, but I need to start with one thing."
So
So
so that
Amazon.
vision dictates that you find a name that is big enough to handle the vision.
Yes. World's biggest
Yeah.
river,
Mhm.
right? So it's June 16th, 1995, Amazon goes live. They wanted to make it simple and easy to order books, and what would happen is they would get the sale, then they would turn around and buy the book from the wholesaler,
Yeah.
repackage the book, and ship it out to you. So they basically had no
I w
inventory.
I was gonna say you could test the whole idea by just, setting up your office, near a brick and mortar bookstore and walking over and buying the book,
Yeah, instead they were buying them
dropping it in the
wholesale.
mail. But they're buying from wholesale, so there's a little profit in it for them.
Yep.
That's good.
So the book would come in, they would repack it, ship it to the customer. So really, at first, they had no physical inventory, but they had a list of 1 million books because they could basically sell any book that they could get from a wholesaler. And Amazon rolls out with this claim they are the Earth's biggest bookstore, which is really crazy. Any bookstore could claim that because they all had access to the
Yeah.
same million books. And but I also love there was a little bit of an unusual wording here.
Stay tuned. We're going to wrap up this story and tell you how to apply this lesson to your business right after this.
Hey.
What?
Shh. Steven created something new.
That's not surprising. Why are you being so quiet?
Well, not very many people know.
Really?
Yes, it's new and it's amazing.
Like tail wagging amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me.
Using storiestosell.com.
Okay.
It's a new free 90-minute session
Why?
because people have a hard time figuring out how to tell their business story.
Yeah, and?
This leverages Steven's TEDx talk on the 4 ingredients for telling a compelling story.
It's a great talk for sure, but how can...
Don't worry. You'll get help figuring out your story quickly, and you'll have one you can use right away. You'll even learn where to use it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, you can sign up at usingstoriestosell.com.
Wait, isn't our tea time coming up?
Oh, yeah, let's go.
You're away, Dave.
Let's pick up our story where we left off, and trust me, you haven't missed a thing.
I also love there was a little bit of an unusual wording here because you sort of expect it to be the world's biggest bookstore rather than the Earth's biggest bookstore,
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
right? And I think that really, again, the slightly unusual wording that fit but doesn't fit sort of makes things stand out a little bit more. The first week, they do 13,000 in sales. Everybody's working boxing books, including Bezos in the early days, and they're struggling to keep up, like it's working. Then they get a call from Yahoo. So remember, at the time, Yahoo is the monster. Mid 90s, Yahoo is the leading search engine by a country mile. And Yahoo had this thing that they would do. They would, each week, they would feature the hottest websites on their landing page. And they give Amazon a call and they say, hey, would you like to be featured? Now, they're struggling to keep up. Bezos says, yep, keep the pedal to the metal. So Amazon's already behind in orders, but they go for it because the whole idea is get big fast. In a month, they've got orders from all 50 states, 25 countries, but they don't have the infrastructure to keep up, and they're operating at a loss and growing. So in 1996, they arrange for $8 million investment, and they start hiring and updating infrastructure. Now, this point, they get the attention of Barnes & Noble. Because remember, Barnes & Noble is the biggest
Oh,
book
sure.
retailer
Yeah.
at this time. The CEO meets with them. He's known as being kind of a bit of a ruthless guy. He tells Jeff that Barnes & Noble is going to launch their site and is going to kill them. So the alternative is sell to Barnes & Noble. Because Barnes & Noble basically says, Bezos, we're going to bury you. Bezos says no. But here's where Bezos is smart. Basically, Barnes & Noble tipped their hand. So in May 1997, Barnes & Noble launches their site. And it's not bad, and it's getting better. But the heads up made Bezos realize he needed the capital to compete. So he had also arranged to go public. So when Barnes & Noble launched their site, Bezos went public. Same, like literally same month, May
Mm.
97. And he raises $54 million. But what he realizes to win, he now needs to stock inventory and do it quicker than Barnes & Noble. So he starts building warehouses. Then, what is the next natural thing to add to books? Movies and music. 'Cause
Yeah.
remember,
I'm just
right, because movies were DVD and
Mhm.
music was CDs, right? Nice, natural add-on.
and you've already got people competing in that space. Right?
Yes.
You've got places that are selling CDs and shipping you movies like Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 1999, and he grows from 610 million to 1.6 billion, 170% growth with the addition of that. Now, here's the problem. The dot-com bubble bursts, and lots of businesses fail. Investors are switching their focus away from growth. You know how there was that whole thing, burn rate, doesn't matter. You don't need to be profitable. Now, all of a sudden, you got to be profitable, right? And Amazon's still losing money. And Bezos is told by the board that he needs to make money. He needs to raise prices. This is what the board says. Dude, you're raising prices. What does Bezos do? Announces he's lowering prices across the board by 30% on everything. He stands against the board because he says, this is my opportunity to crush the competition and win.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. The Monday morning memo this week from Roy H. Williams.
Mhm.
So we need to note it's October 6th. So any listeners should go back, mondaymorningmemo.com, October 6th. Read that because it's really interesting what Roy wrote this morning. To write down this whole idea that when things slow down, this is when the little guy can crush the big guys.
The big guy.
This
Yeah.
is what he did. Bezos stood against the board. Board said raise prices. Bezos said, no, this is my opportunity to put the foot down, put the hammer down, and win. And that's what he did. And guess what? Not only that, a few quarters after doing that, they hit profitability for the first time because they
Mhm.
exploded the transactions. They killed their competitors
Yeah.
in that moment. So I think the parts that came across interesting for me that I wanted to talk about when it comes to Amazon is this whole idea of he knew he wanted to do something big, but he knew he couldn't start large.
Yeah.
So he spent a lot of time thinking about what's the natural thing for me to start with.
Mhm.
And he looked for something that was fragmented, because then it's easy to go in, that was not being done well,
Mhm.
but was already a fairly regular purchase. So he did
Yeah.
books. And then in terms of the expansion, what's something that has very similar characteristics to books,
Mhm.
movies,
That people are already
music.
accustomed to purchasing online.
Correct.
And like the startup people will talk about the minimum viable product or minimum
Yeah.
viable service, right?
Yes.
And that's sort of this.
It is sort of because he did it with
Sort of,
no
but
inventory.
it's not
Yeah.
quite though.
Not quite.
Because he wasn't trying to make the minimum viable product or service. He was trying to find the entry path to something much, much bigger.
Correct.
When you have this idea for a business that's, "Oh, we're gonna sell this thing online, or we're gonna do this service," and you just when you think about minimum viable product, you're forced to think small, and I think in some cases, the risk is that you trim back that big vision,
Yeah, he managed to
and you
hold.
lose it.
So there's 2 areas where Bezos really showed his brilliance, and look, he's shown his brilliance in so many different things, like, there's whole books have been written around his philosophies and whatnot, but these were the 2 that I thought have not been talked about before that I think we can all learn from as entrepreneurs, is he managed to hold those 2 ideas in his head, the long-term vision
Mhm.
and the short-term thing he needed to do to get started. And he didn't have the one limit the other. Like one, he
Yeah.
was very clear, this one is the pathway to the other. But he was also okay to be known initially as a bookseller. He was fine with that. But he was able to hold those 2 contradictory ideas in his head and not sacrifice one for the other. And I think you're right. That's a lot of people struggle with that, and he was brilliant at that.
He was focused on it.
He never lost sight of it.
That's a really good take on Amazon. I love this one.
The other part is, and I think it's particularly relevant for where we are today, is because there's a lot of talk of, consumer confidence slipping and things along that lines, is that he stood against his board. His board was like, "Okay, the
Mhm.
tune of the day is we gotta get profitable, you have to raise prices," and what he knew is if he raised prices, this idea wasn't gonna work. And look, I'm not normally one saying, "Go lower prices, go lower prices, go lower prices," but strategically, here's what he knew at this point.
Mhm.
His competitors were failing. His competitors were not making money, and his competitors had no more access to capital. This was the opportunity to destroy his online competitors, put the
Yeah.
final nail like, this is my opportunity to put my foot on their throat
Yeah.
and win.
Mhm.
Normally, a lowering of prices is not gonna do that, but
Yes.
strategically in that moment, it was gonna crush the competition.
And he didn't change the vision of the company to always be the low cost supplier, right? It's like
Right.
that's changed now.
Yes.
You may find it for less on Amazon, but you may not. He didn't make it as a strategy of focus on the company again. He made it a strategic decision for competition reasons,
Correct.
which is what Walmart did, right?
Correct.
It's just a similar story that's not in the brick and mortar space. I love hearing this
Yeah.
story. And
And he took advantage of the moment. Like, he saw
Mhm.
that there's this moment where this will work. There's this moment in time where this will work, and I'm gonna take advantage of this moment.
and he
So
became incredibly rich.
yes.
Still is, even though
Yep.
and here's to me the happy ending, okay?
Mhm.
When he got divorced, his ex-wife got half of it, half of I don't know if half of Amazon, but half of all the money at least, and she's been giving it away to charities and
Yeah.
helping all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Not buying yachts and
And he look, and he didn't fight it. He
yeah,
recognized her
yeah.
role.
Oh,
He
sure.
recognized
Yeah.
her role. Like
No,
like,
I'll give you full credit for that.
it was not one of these drawn out in court battles
Yeah,
because we didn't hear anything about it. So
yeah,
clear
and
like, so he did the right thing.
yeah, I think so, and she's doing a great thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
She's clearly thought, "Well, this I can help a lot of people and still live a fantastic life."
I'd been resisting doing Amazon, although I felt like, it's hard to have a podcast like this and not talk about Amazon because
Mhm,
but I wanted to find a couple of things that I think just were a little bit different take and a couple of things that we can really take away
mhm,
as business owners. And I like to call it the thin edge of the wedge strategy. What's
mhm,
that
mhm.
starting point, which he identified that then you can pivot to the larger thing. And also in the tough times, that's your opportunity to become the leader.
Okay, well, that's it for the giant Amazon. You talk
Yep.
about an empire.
Yeah.
Next week, as marketers, we'll be back to talking about the Apple 1984 commercial. No, we won't. Thank you, Stephen.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please share us, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and leave us a big, fat, juicy 5-star rating and review at Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to schedule your own 90-minute empire building session, you can do it at empirebuildingprogram.com.